Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and along for the ride is Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers. How are we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Oh,
Very good.
fantastic.
All righty, all righty. So we have week 9 in the books. We are moving on to week 10. We're going to go ahead and cover the games like we always do. We have a new middle topic that we're going to go through and discuss, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about the upcoming games. So we got a lot of action going on, so we are just going to just cut right down to it and jump right on in. So if you guys are ready, first game that we have on the list is was a very good game. Went into overtime. Pittsburgh hosting the Jets, and they ended up in overtime sneaking out with a 30-24 victory. We are going to start this week off with Mitch.
Oh man, what a big game this was. I mean, it looked like Terry Bradshaw, versus Namath out there. Both quarterbacks had huge games, 300 yards plus, 5 touchdowns between them. An absolutely fantastic game. In fact, you can still hear the fans from the dog pound barking at them right now. But no, huge game. And, I don't think there's a lot of teams that expected Steelers to win. So nice job for Donovan.
All right. Dean, what do you got?
Yeah, this was definitely a surprise. In fact, the Steelers are winning for most of this game, and the Jets tied it near the end. And usually, the team that ties it and forces overtime usually has momentum in the overtime, but it flipped back around, and Pittsburgh actually scored in overtime. But this was pretty surprising. I mean, statistically, it's pretty even overall for the most part, although Pittsburgh had a bit more rushing yards than the Jets. That certainly helped for most of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's the result that folks expected. Handed the Jets their second loss, and as we're going to see later, our lone undefeated team this week also ran into some issues. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Next game, we have New Orleans hosting New England, and New Orleans ran it up on New England and walked away with a 42-28 victory. Dean.
Yeah, this is one of the few games I actually predicted and was right on that. I did believe the Saints were going to be the stronger team here, and as you can see, they were definitely. Well, the New England was a little bit stronger in the running game, but the Saints were definitely stronger in the passing game, and overall, they outscored them and played better, won by 2 touchdowns. Pretty solid win at home for them, and for New England, it's once again a situation where Patriots started off strong early in the season, and now it's getting tough for them.
Okay. Mitch.
Yeah, I think they brought Drew Brees back to New Orleans. 384 yards for Thorson, Player of the Week, 4 touchdowns. I mean, I just don't remember New Orleans being that aggressive on offense. But wow, I mean, they look good. They looked really good. And I already told you all, New Orleans and Minnesota are my two favorite teams outside of my own team in this league. So congrats to the Saints.
Okay.
Sounds like
Next.
someone else agrees too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next game, we have a low scoring affair here, but you had Indianapolis hosting Jacksonville and walking away with a 13-6 victory. Mitch.
Well, after those two really fun games talked about, we get to this third one here, and ooh, yeah, yikes. Hey, Indianapolis is, found a way to pull out the victory, and Jacksonville, after a few good strong games, seems to have kind of fallen back into the old routine. But the thing I look at there is Jacksonville. Their longest pass completion was for 18 yards. So not a lot of stretching the field there for Jacksonville. So no surprise that Indy was able to somehow find a way to win.
Dean.
Well, Jacksonville plays some pretty good defense here, but their offense is the problem. Namely, Kirk throwing two interceptions, and that probably cost them the game that they could have won. This is definitely a winnable game. Um, I'm not really sure what's going on with Indianapolis. We expected them to be tougher this season after making the playoffs last season, and they seem to be struggling a bit. And they did win this game, but um, it wasn't by much.
Yeah, but I think as you guys have told me before, doesn't matter what the score is as long as you get that mark in the win column. So that's all that matters. Next game we have LA hosting Kansas City. And I think a lot of us have predicted it was going to be a good game. Two top tier teams over in the AFC. And Kansas City was just better, a little bit better today as they won 28-23. We're going to start with Dean and then move over to the coach.
Yeah, this game was very competitive. The statistics show it. But as I remember watching, the Chargers were carrying a narrow lead through most of the game, and the Chiefs came back to win it near the end. And this is an important game for them in the division, and it does give Kansas City an edge in hoping to win the division this season.
Coach, what'd you do this week to seal that victory?
Baker Mayfield had his best game of the season, so that always helps when your quarterback plays well. But I mean the quarterback combo for LA played well out there, so it was a nice shootout there between the quarterbacks. It was fun to watch. Sometimes you watch these games and you go, okay, I don't think I've ever seen this before, and that happened here in this game. We've talked about the highs and lows of the kickers in this league. I know we had a lot of fun talking about my kicker last year. Couldn't make anything outside of 40 yards. But in this game, the LA kicker, not once, but twice, hit field goals of 54 yards or longer and didn't like just hit the crossbar and bounce over. I mean, like drilled it right down the middle, like hitting the net. It was gone into the seat. So I don't know how in the world the LA kicker is able to hit a 54 and a 55-yard field goal. But hats off, because my guy, I wouldn't trust him to make anything over 40. So um, anyway, that's my takeaway from the game.
But you're going to have four of them now.
No, that's extra points. That's extra points.
Extra points. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's extra points. No, LA 3 for 3 on field goals with two being 54 and 55.
What I find interesting is that if you guys remember at the beginning of the season, that was one of our topics we were discussing was field goal kickers were missing everything. Even short little chip shots, they were missing them. So, and now it looks like that pattern is starting to turn to where they're starting to nail these. So maybe all the kickers in the league started off cold and now they're starting to warm up. I don't know, but
I don't know.
yeah.
That's just the thing. That's the thing that stood out to me the most was that.
Minnesota hosting Vegas, and that was another, I'd say probably a high scoring affair or a medium high scoring affair. Minnesota ended up taking this game 34-18. Mitch.
Well, Minnesota, my second favorite AFC team, pull out, got that victory. People were putting some dirt on top of their casket, but maybe it's still a little bit too early for that. So, Drew Lock had another big game. I'll tell you what, if anyone is looking to get a quarterback before the trade deadline, call Minnesota. They've got 3 quarterbacks on their roster that are starting quality quarterbacks. So if you get an injury or if you have a team and you're not satisfied with your quarterback, give old Barney a call. Give him a first round pick, as long as it's not in the top 10, and get your quarterback.
All right. Dean.
Yeah, I think if you look at this game, the stats are pretty close, and I believe we had all predicted Minnesota would win, and they did. But the stats are close, but then you see the story here. The three interceptions that were thrown by Las Vegas cost them a chance at winning this game. I think it would have been much closer had those interceptions not happened. Because otherwise, both teams ran about the same amount of yards, passed for a similar number of yards, and that was the difference. Those three interceptions.
Yep. Next game we have low scoring affair, but another game between the top two, I guess the top teams in the league. This one was on the NFC side, as you had Chicago hosting Washington, and came down to one possession, as Chicago ended up winning this game 18-14. We're going to start with Mitch on this one again.
Man, talk about that movie Grindhouse. That's what this was. I mean, my goodness. Um, you look at there, I think total yards, not even 600 combined between the two teams. But look at those total plays for Washington, 41. Chicago just absolutely ground out like ground beef there in the meat counter. 37 carries at 4.2 yards a carry. I mean, just absolutely ground out this thing. You kind of look at some of this, you might go, well, golly, how did they only win by 4? There's a couple turnovers or so for, between the two teams, but um, the Chicago just took the air out of Washington. And so, you know, interesting game.
Okay. Dean.
Yeah, they also played very solid defense against Washington, and Washington had been pretty solid on offense, but Chicago played pretty solid defense, held them to two touchdowns, which is how they got those 14 points. And that ended up being the difference here. And as a result, our last undefeated team now has a loss, so we have no undefeated teams left.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Next game we have a very tight game. One possession, actually 1 point game, really. Low scoring affair. And this is the New York Giants hosting Detroit. And Detroit eked out a 11-10 victory on this one. Dean.
Yeah, you look at the stats here, they're not even at all. Detroit had a total of 387 yards of offense, and they did have 2 turnovers, which doesn't help. Now, I expected the Detroit defense to be pretty solid. They have a young defense that's very talented, and they were effective at holding the Giants to just 10 points. But the Giants defense is a bit suspect and has been this season. I expected Detroit's offense to score more than they did, and I think when you look at the stats, they did gain about 5 yards per play on average, which is not bad. It will generally sustain drives, but they didn't score much. I mean, they scored a total of a field goal. I believe at one point it was 7-3 in favor of the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Then they scored a touchdown, and the surprising thing, at 10-9 after scoring a touchdown, they went for the 2 points rather than kicking a PAT and tying it. And ultimately that ends up, I think there were like 7 or 8 minutes left in the game, but ultimately that ends up being the score of the game rather than 10-10 and going into overtime, a 2-point conversion. And apparently, according to Rich, this is the only time that we've had an 11-10 score in the history of the PNFL.
Yep.
We had a 10-9 score in my game against the Giants last season, but I guess this is the first time we had an actual 11-10. When you think of it, it's fairly rare. I mean, to score 11 points, it either has to be like 3 field goals and a safety, or the combination here, which would be a field goal, a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion. It's you see lots of games with 10 points scored by one of the teams, but 11 is pretty rare combination. So
yeah, I agree.
And
this one was listed as a pick'em game. I forgot to mention that as well. So it was put down as a pick'em. So, Mitch, what do you got?
I've got a team that completed less than 40% of their passes. rushed for 1.8 yards a carry, and yet still came within 1 point of winning the game. So, just like some of our tax returns, this was ugly. I think we should move on.
Okay, next game we have Atlanta hosting San Francisco, and they were giving San Francisco the spread. Um, I thought it was going to be much closer, but Atlanta really took it on the chin this week as San Francisco took this one 31-19. Mitch.
Yeah, Atlanta got torched through the air. I mean, Burrow started off 8 for 8 for 100 yards and a touchdown before he got knocked out. And then Purdy comes in and just keeps it going, throwing for another 3 touchdowns and 254 yards. And so Air Charlie is alive and well in San Francisco and kind of going against the grain for what he's been known for 46 seasons in the PNFL.
Mm,
So hats off to Charlie.
okay. Dean, what happened this week, sir?
Well, this story is really simple, and the one stat you look at is the number of punts. My team punted 4 times, which is not bad. You often can still win a game where you punted 4 times and you scored something the other times. But the 49ers punted once, just once. That's because my team didn't play defense. You don't play defense, you can't win, no matter how good your offense. And the offense wasn't great. It was okay. It scored 19 points, but when when your defense is only forcing them to punt a single time in the whole game, it's going to be ugly. Probably more ugly than the tax returns that Mitch was talking about.
Yeah. So, last game of the week. I'm quite sure a lot of people did not expect this. You had Seattle hosting Shuggy in Anaheim, and Seattle walked away with a 42-11 victory. We are going to start this last one with Dean.
Yeah, this was maybe one of the more surprising results of the week. The Seahawks were dominant. They they ran for 212 yards to the Rams 36. The passing game was solid, 260 to 142. So overall, it's over 400 yards of offense. And they played solid defense. They held the Rams to just 11 points. And this is a solid win. And certainly the Seahawks have struggled this season at times and definitely need to start putting together some wins. And they got the job done this time.
Mitch.
Yeah, this was definitely Seattle's best game of the season on both sides of the ball. Um, you look and the Seattle was able to take advantage of the extra possessions that their defense was able to generate for them in this game. I think this is the most points Seattle scored. I know this year, but heck, I haven't gone back to look, but um, in a while. Hey, yeah, let's see. Let's see if Seattle can repeat this a few more times and make the second half of the season interesting.
Yeah, I think it was. I think the higher before that was in the mid 30s. I think it was. It was either last season or another season prior to that, or something like that. So yeah, this is the high. I think this is the highest
Game
total
when you beat,
since I've been in the league. So hey,
yeah, I think of that game when you beat Washington. I think you scored quite a few.
yeah. So I don't remember the score, but it was in the 30s, and then there was the one last season against Pitt, but that was pretty much one of those toss away games. So it was like, okay, whatever you guys put out there, here, throw this out there, throw that out there. It's like, oh, okay, hey, you take that win. But
Yeah, that was the game that Pittsburgh was playing prevent defense on first down, and you ran quarterback sneaks for 300 yards or something.
yeah, it was just phoned in. Yeah. Okay, so we did a quick run through all the games. So we're just going to keep this train moving. Middle segment. Um, we were discussing in pre-show, and guys jump in there and correct me because my notes I'm sitting here looking at they're all jumbled up. But we were discussing, if I'm not mistaken, about the PRD plays, and was a conversation. I guess that was something out there that Charlie had put out. I guess trying to remove the plays. Again, I was trying to scribble notes down as we were trying to get everything fired up and get started here. So we're going to
Yeah,
talk.
the issue was that one of the plays was deemed to be a clone of one of the others that was in there, so it was deleted, and it was one that I had submitted. Now, the plays we're talking about, and there's a couple of variations of it. The two receivers kind of go about 45 yards down the field, going toward the middle of the field, and then they cut to the outside, and it's a lob time pass that they catch on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had an idea kind of in the off season that I never really worked on to do one similar to that, have the player cut all the way to the outside and then break toward the middle and catch the timed lob pass in the middle instead. I thought that would be good balance against, because some of us have designed defenses where we send deep zones to the outside to pick up the receiver at that spot, and it very effectively breaks those plays. For those people who say that those plays are unrealistic and should be banned, those kinds of defenses designed to counter them destroy those plays and render their effectiveness rating in the single digits as far as the percent of times they're caught. So I thought as a balance to that, I would design one where the player ran just the opposite, went to the outside and then came into the middle and got the same pass directly in the middle. So when Charlie banned that one, I said, okay, I'm going to do that and design two versions of it. One would be that version, then flip it. And so I didn't even test in the play editor. I simply drew it up and put it in game plan and tested it. I thought, okay, it should be pretty similar stats as the two plays in question, which right now there's an LA version and an NY version
Right.
that passes to the outside. So I tested it, and the stats were atrocious. They were absolutely deplorable. The completion percentage were in the 7%. And then I said, okay, I better put this in the play editor and test it out. And when I saw what was going on, I realized there's an issue, and this affects a lot of our passing plays, not just these PRD lob plays. But think of the field as kind of like three columns going vertically. And if you pass to the outside and the left or right, which those current plays do, so this one I designed to pass in the middle, goes in the middle. But there's something that happens with both receivers and defenders, and this is kind of an AI issue. It's not really an AI buster, but I say it's an instance in which the AI itself is busted. And that is when the quarterback throws the ball, whether it's a time pass or a check receiver pass, all of the offensive players that are downfield that are either receivers or covering those receivers, they start breaking towards that spot. It's as if as soon as the ball is in the air, it's if they all know exactly where it's going to go and they start charging toward that spot. Now, that's kind of unrealistic. In real football, it doesn't quite work that way. If the quarterback throws to someone on the left, if there's two receivers running routes on the right side of the field, those players don't all abandon what they're doing and charge toward the left. But in our game, it does. That's why I said that's an AI issue, but it's not an AI buster as far as play design. It's a situation where the AI is busted. So what I realized was the reason why those plays work on the right and left is because the players that are like, if you do the version of that play where it passes to the left, the players that are covering that other receiver on the far right, they have too far to go and they're not going to get into that play. But what I realized, my version where the intended receiver is catching it in the middle, the players on the left and the right had the time to get to that spot. So when I looked at it in the play editor, the intended receiver had like 4 or 5 defenders covering it. That's why it was almost never caught. And that's the problem I noticed. Now, with short passing plays, it can be a challenge. That's why many times when I design short passing plays, I kind of spread the receivers out over the field to prevent that as much as possible. And that's why the KC slot plays are very effective, because that player kind of makes a comeback and the player covering that receiver will make that comeback with him, but will be standing behind the receiver when the receiver catches it. So this is something I've noticed, and it's not something we can do about it with rules or anything, but it's also the reason why many times when I've designed plays, I like see something in a game I'm watching, try to design it in our game, and it works in real football, and it doesn't work in our game because of this issue. A lot of times what seem like good football ideas that are realistic don't work in our game, and there are other ideas that work in our game that are unrealistic, such as the PRD lob plays. For that reason, do work. So it's something we need to keep in mind. We can't make this game with its flaws and its weaknesses be as realistic as we'd like it to, and this is one of the reasons why the logic in AI is kind of flawed. And that's one thing I've noticed, and that came to light again when I tried to work on those plays, and ultimately came up with a different version of it that passed to the outside. That's very different than the two plays that are in the playbook now, and ended up submitting those. But it is, I think, one of the reasons why it's tough to try to have long passes that go to the middle. The plays that we do have that go up the middle, like some of the pass medium plays, a guy will get open and behind the defense and catch the pass, and those work pretty well. But for something like that kind of play where the player's going deep and then coming back like that's usually tough to do in the middle, because there will be more defenders kind of converging on that spot, especially with a long time pass like that one. What do you two think?
What do you think about that, Mitch?
I
Your
mean,
opinion,
well,
or opinion on that in general?
no, well, I mean, typically, yeah, you throw a ball late over the middle, you're going to have more players converging toward it. So that's not too much a surprise. But I think it also, I know they do have some funkiness with how some of these players, track the ball and all that kind of stuff. I mean, for me, I mean, I use those. I call them the the 50-yard T lobs, because they're in the playbook, they're in the rules, but I can't I really can't stand them. I'm one of those that I just kind of think they're unrealistic. Um, 20, 25-yard deep out, something like that, time. Yeah, that, I could see that, or kind of a, you know, back shoulder throw timed, 20, 25 yards down the field, but 50 yards down the field, timed pass. Yeah, and Dean's right. Yeah, there are defenses that you can design that you put players standing where the thing is, and it will stop it. Absolutely. The problem comes in is that you can call those T lobs in situations where there's no way or reason why a team would be playing a prevent defense, like third and short, fourth and short. What team's going to be playing prevent defense on some of those things, right? So it just makes it where I don't know. I just think it's a little bit unrealistic. I would prefer to see maybe some of the time passes, maybe the max be, maybe 25 yards downfield or something like that. But that's just my thought.
Well,
So,
they're very easy to defend, as I noted. Now, if you're talking about those kinds of plays being used on 4th and 1, I mean, the only thing I could see that might be a reasonable, in my opinion, rule adjustment is to say that those plays should only be able to be used on downs of 10 yards or longer. And, they're very good, of course, and you can use them under the current rules anytime when there's, less than 5 minutes left in the half. So, that might be a reasonable compromise rather than trying to do something like limit how many yards long a lobbed pass can be, because that was the whole purpose of those being legalized, was to create them as pass razzle dazzle plays that you would use in long yardage situations when you need possibly 25, 30, or 40 yards to get a first down. So I think that would be, I do see that it is unrealistic to call those on 4th and 1 or 3rd and 5 or something like that. Maybe those are play situations. Anything shorter than 10 yards pass rush should not be allowed. Would be, I think, a more easy and probably agreeable rules change regarding the use of these plays.
So, do you think that this is
There's
some?
something to debate over the holidays, I guess.
Well, I was thinking over the holidays or moving forward, probably at the end of the season. I know that there's been some loose chatter as far as making some major changes to some of the rules. I know the one that stands on the top of my head right now is the deadline change as far as turning in, getting the PPPs turned in, which there is some discussion about that, and I'll admit that hey, if they make that change, then yeah, by all means, we can make that change, and I think that would make it a lot easier for everyone going forward doing that. And I think this would be another one they can look at. So I just have this funny feeling that there's going to be some major rules changes during this off season. So enjoy them now while you can, guys. And I think the plays is another thing that Charlie's always looking at and always making some tweaks to. And the past couple seasons he's made some tweaks to the play, the rules to the play. So I think that's another one that's coming up. So any other
And to
comments
your
on
point,
those?
and to your point, I say to your point, Dean. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we do look at these razzle dazzle plays. I don't know. Maybe they have to be you know in situations where it's 6+ yards to go or something. I don't know, but you definitely when you've got situations where those are being called on third and short, fourth and short, you know, even if it's I don't know, it just becomes very unrealistic. So.
Mm, okay. Anything else you want to have on this topic you want to get out there, Dean?
And I say that as someone who has used it on third and short. So I'm saying I've done it. All right. So I've done it. And I've had it done to me. So I'm just saying I've seen it from on both sides of the
Both
field.
perspectives,
Yeah,
right?
I think that's the issue. It's a matter of, I mean, the plays have their place and have their purpose. It's a matter of when they're allowed to be used, not whether we get rid of them or ban them. And I would agree calling one of those kinds of plays on like 4th and 1 or 3rd and 2 is a bit unrealistic. But the plays are not that unrealistic, especially if they're defended well. And we're not talking about designing new defenses to stop these. It's already been done. There's plenty of plays in pass long right or pass long, I should say, in pass razzle dazzle defense that very effectively stop these plays and render them less effective than even regular PRD passing plays. The good guys, I mean, regular, the check receiver plays. The good check receiver PRD plays are around 25 to 30% completions. And when these PRD, these, T plays or whatever Mitch called them are defended well, they're much lower than that in perceptions, usually uh, um, completions, usually single digits if they're well defended. So a lot of it is just a matter of, other than those unrealistic situations, or the one at 3rd and 2, a lot of it's just a matter of defenses putting in the right place to stop these things.
Yep. Any rebuttal on that one, Mitch?
No, kickoff just happened, so I'm good.
Okay. All right. So as we're recording this on a Monday, we got the big game on the big screen. So we're gonna jump to this last section and run through this real quick. So because I want to see the same thing that Mitch is watching right now. So we're gonna jump through this. So as we go into week 10, we have a couple of pick'em games out there, and some games that the spreads are pretty wide. But we're gonna run through these all real quick. Um, and as usual, we have our lead pipe lock. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First game on the list, we have Las Vegas hosting LA. The sporting books. Oh, before I get into that, right now for the season, Mitch overall is 54-27 in his picks. Dean is sitting in second no, Dean is sitting back at third, excuse me, with 37 and 44. I'm on the flip side at 44 and 37. So Mitch has definitely taken the lead on that.
Are you
Led
still leading in like lost though?
for lead pipe locks, Mitch is at 5 and 4. Dean is at 4 and 5. I am holding barely at 6 and 3. So with that out the way, let's go ahead and jump back into this. Sorry. So we have first game on the list. We have Las Vegas hosting LA. The Sporting Books is giving LA 13. Oh, excuse me, 10.5. We're gonna start with Dean this week.
Yeah, the Chargers are going to get back on the winning side this week, and they're definitely going to cover that spread. I would say they're probably going to win by a couple touchdowns in this game. I could see some like 24-10 or 31-17 or something like that.
All right, Mitch.
Yeah,
Man,
Chargers are going to win this big. In fact, I'll say it's a lead pipe block.
ooh, well, he's out the gate with his lock. Okay. Second game we have Pitt hosting Minnesota. Mitch has his Vikings cheerleading outfit that he's looking at. Let's see if he's going to put it on. So it is considered a pick'em game. We are going to start with Mitch.
Oh man, how can you have a pick 'em in this game? You know it's going to be Minnesota. Minnesota. I'll
That's
agree
why
with
I
that.
said he has his
Minnesota.
pom poms out. I didn't know he was going to put the uniform on or not. Dean, what do you got?
I'm surprised he didn't save his lead pipe lock for this game.
Yeah.
But no, I kind of agree with what Rich said in either one of the emails or posts. He says and I think between these two teams, the Steelers are going to be the stronger of the two. They are playing at home. It's a pick'em game. It may be fairly close, but yeah, Pittsburgh is going to win this game. And I did save the lead pipe for this lock, and I'm putting it on it. So
Okay.
put all your money, take out the fourth mortgage, and get your payday loans, whatever you have to do. Bet on Pittsburgh to win this game. They're definitely going to win.
All right. I'm not going to be that high on it, but I guess I'll be the one tossing Mitch up, and Mitch will be the flyer this week on the cheerleading squad. So I'm going with Minnesota this week. Next game we have New England hosting Kansas City. They are giving Kansas City 9.5. Dean.
Yeah, I think Kansas City is going to be solid this week, and you might even see Baker Mayfield being the player of the game, the player of the week, player of the game yet again. And it is at New England, but that's not going to make any difference. And the Patriots are going to continue to struggle. Chiefs win and cover the spread here.
Mitch, what do you got?
I tell you, I'm sure it's going to rain, snow, or sleet. So, I have to be prepared for that and those elements. But we'll see how we go. I think I'll be able to muster a few drives together and pull out a victory.
All right. I'm going to keep that train going, and I'll be going for Kansas City as well. Next game we have Indy hosting Washington. Another large spread. They are giving Washington 13.5. Mitch.
Washington is probably upset from this past game a little bit, so I expect them to take it out on Indianapolis. I'm taking Washington.
All right. Dean.
Yeah, I think Washington is going to win, but Indianapolis is going to play this game tough, and they're struggling this season, and they're going to see this as an opportunity to make a statement. But I think the spread is too large. I think Washington wins by less than 13.5.
All right. I think the is dead on, and I am taking Washington on this one. Next game, we have the Battle of New York. as we have the New York Jets hosting the New York Giants over in MetLife, and they are giving the Jets 13 and a half. Dean.
Well, I think this is easy. The Jets much stronger offense, solid defense, and they're playing at home. What can go wrong? Jets are going to win and cover the spread here. It's 13.5. They could score quite a few more than that. I think they'll show how suspect the Giants' defense is.
All right. Mitch.
Well, the Giants, I think mustered under 200 yards against Detroit, so I think the Jets will hold them, and I think they'll beat them pretty well.
All right. Our second pick'em game for this week is Jacksonville hosting Atlanta. Mitch.
Jacksonville and Atlanta. You know what? I'm going to take Dean in this one. I think I have the Jacksonville just too inconsistent, so I'm going to take Atlanta.
Okay. Dean.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a good or bad thing that this is a pick'em game, but I think my team will manage to score a few more points in Jacksonville.
All right. I have to agree with Mitch that Jacksonville's been a little on the inconsistency side. I think if Atlanta goes ahead and they do their proper planning or kick it up an extra notch, they'll take it. So I'm going with Atlanta this week. Next game, we have Detroit hosting New Orleans, and they are giving New Orleans 6.5. Dean.
Yeah, Detroit played some pretty solid defense against the Giants last week, and their offense, I think, underperformed. But the Saints have been playing very well. They played some pretty solid defense, and I think in the end, and their offense has been very good lately. I think the Saints will win and cover the spread in this game.
All right. Mitch.
Yeah, I'm feeling good about the Saints. I'm taking them all the way.
All right. I am calling for an upset. I'm going to put a lock on this one as well. It's a 6.5 point spread. So I am going for Detroit, and I'm putting my lead pipe lock on this one. I'm pulling for them for the upset.
It's interesting putting a lead pipe lock on this one, and you're the only one of the three of us calling for that. And I'm putting a lead pipe lock on the Steelers with you two picking Minnesota. So it's going to be interesting how those two games are going to fare given our pick.
It's going to be interesting to see how this comes out. So,
Right.
last two games we have on the list, we have Chicago hosting Seattle. They are giving Chicago 14.5. Mitch.
Ooh, well, let's think about that one for a second. You know what? I think Chicago's going to win this game.
Okay. Dean.
Chicago scored a big and important win against Washington last week, and that can sometimes lead to a letdown. And we see what the Seahawks did last week, and I'm calling for the upset. I think Seahawks will win this game.
All right. Well, as we talked about before, I can't do a Pete Rose, so hopefully I can learn from last week and going for Seattle this week to pull off the upset. Last game from week 10, we have San Francisco hosting Shuggy and Anaheim, and they are giving San Francisco 7.5. Dean.
Yeah, I think the Rams will play tough here, and but I don't think they're going to beat the 49ers. So I think 49ers win at home, but the 49ers are notorious for winning games and not covering the spread. So San Francisco, but not by 7.5, less than that. I see a 3 or 4 point win here at home for the 49ers.
Mitch.
49ers, Air Charlie will continue his role here over the past few weeks. So I'm taking the Niners.
All right.
You think they
Um,
cover the spread?
I don't know. I know they'll win.
all right. So I'm going to go with San Francisco as well. I think that is the one, two, three, four, five. This is the sixth game that we are all in agreement on. I'm going with San Francisco, and I think that the spread it'll be good. I think I'm going for that spread as well. So going with San Francisco. So, all right, guys. You guys are probably going to say, man, this was a short show. They ran right through it. We normally have another at least 15 minutes or so to go, but, we're going to try to run through this real quick. I know this is Thanksgiving weekend or the Thanksgiving week coming up. So, try to get those
Yeah.
PPPs in early. And,
As I say, take the extra time to listen to this to get your PPPs in.
yep. So, get those in and get them pushed in. So I'm going to be following soon after that. As soon as I get this thing done in post production, get it pushed up. So we're going to get that stuff taken care of. So if we don't talk to you guys before then via email or any other communication, want to wish all you guys a happy Thanksgiving. Be thankful for the things that you guys have and say prayers for those that have less than what we've been blessed with. So as we come to wrap this up, we're going to run around the table. Dean, any final words?
No, just good luck to everyone in the game this weekend, and we'll have 10 weeks completed after this weekend.
All right. Mitch, what do you got?
Well, just know that there'll be 9 winners and 9 losers unless there's a tie. Other than that, let's get it.